You are now listening to a podcast made in collaboration with the Copenhagen College Radio.
Hi, and thanks for tuning in to episode 33 of the Social Media and Politics podcast, bringing you expert insights into how social media is changing the political game. I'm your host, Michael Becerra, political scientist at the University of Copenhagen. Be sure that you follow us on Twitter at SMNP Podcast and check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Social Media and Politics Podcast. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for telling a friend about the show. I am super excited to release this episode as it hits close to home for me. So we're going to be talking with the former police chief of Chula, Mississippi, and that's spelled Tchula. Chula is a small town in the middle of Mississippi and was actually profiled by The Guardian in 2015 for being one of the U.S.'s poorest cities. I'll put a link to that article in the show notes, but just to give you an idea, the median household income of Chula, Mississippi is $14,325, which is about $39,000 less than the U.S. average. The high school dropout rate is nearing 40%, which, again, is about 25% higher than the national average. And my dad actually lives close by in a similar town, which it's very much agricultural driven. There's not a lot of commerce. There's not a lot of even grocery stores because most people are pretty self-sustainable or can get what they need from their neighbors. As I mentioned, the high school dropout rate tends to be high, and that's because there's not a lot of public funding for education, but also because a lot of students drop out of high school to help work on the family farm or because they know they're going to be a farmer and they don't view education as that important. So whenever you have a small town, not a lot of funding for law enforcement or for education, and a relatively poor populace with not a lot of means for advancement, you're likely to have crime. And so today's guest is Kenneth Hampton. He's the former chief of police of Chula, Mississippi. And what's interesting about Kenneth is he's really adopted Facebook in a rather unorthodox way. And I would encourage anyone listening before getting into the interview to go check out his Facebook pages. One is Chula Police Department. That has over 25,000 likes. And then his other is New Southern Justice, which has over 10,000 likes. And through these Facebook pages, Kenneth has adopted some rather unorthodox means of law enforcement through social media. He's called out certain criminals, asking them to turn themselves in. He has posted video surveillance of break-ins and sort of trash-talking criminals a little bit, or as Kenneth himself would say, put them on blast. And Kenneth has received a lot of national and even international media attention for his style of law enforcement. And a couple weeks ago, turned in a letter of resignation that is connected to some political pressures that we're going to talk about in this episode. So I've been following these pages for some time, and I think it's super interesting that a police chief in a town of 2,000 people can garner over 25,000 likes on the department's Facebook page. So the style of law enforcement, it's definitely a little bit controversial. Kenneth is not your average police chief by any means, but I wanted to talk to him and find out exactly what were his motivations or sharing some of his experiences about using social media as a law enforcement tool in small town Mississippi. So without further ado, let me introduce Kenneth to the show. He is the police chief of Chula, Mississippi, and I called him up on his cell phone through Skype. Kenneth, thanks so much for taking the time out and welcome to the Social Media and Politics podcast.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you.
So first of all, can you start by telling our listeners a little bit about Chula, Mississippi? How would you describe it?
Well, I mean, it's a small town, but I mean, as of now, I am the former chief of police. I put in my resignation just over a week ago. So,
right, and we'll get into that in a second. But you know, I'm a little bit familiar with Southwest Mississippi, but a lot of our listeners come from other countries, et cetera. So how would you describe it?
Well, Chula is a small town. It's only got about just over 2,000 people there. Not a lot of jobs, not a lot of growth as of now, but I guess they're going to be working on it in between, you know, fighting the crime that's going on down there. I heard since I resigned, the crime is kind of going up. Everybody's kind of just doing their own thing.
And how is the crime there normally?
Well, before I got there, the crime was up And by the time I was walking out the door, we had got crime down about 70 to 80%. So I think within a week's time, they had more fights and burglaries and robberies, than I had, I think, in the whole 2 years that I was there. So I guess they were just waiting for the bell to ring.
And before we get into your resignation and your Facebook use, et cetera, let's talk a little bit about your background. You weren't always in law enforcement, right? You spent over a decade in the Marines.
Yeah, I was in the Marines for 14 years and had a lot of jobs in the Marines. Like I would move from one thing, or they would move me from one thing to another. I started out as a mechanic. I was a Marine Corps recruiter for 3 years. I was on I&I duty with the Marine Corps Reserve for 3 years. Went to Dam Neck, did some training there. It was just a lot of stuff. I mean, it was just like anything. If you get bored with one job, you can always do a lat move or volunteer to do something else. I wrote a book that was based on it was some fiction, some nonfiction. But I wrote a book about an adventure that I had over there in the Philippines. It was called The Killing Man Sign. So it's a short book, but I had fun writing it because at the time I couldn't type.
And so, how did you get into law enforcement then?
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I kind of knew what I wanted to do when I got out. So I ended up putting in applications around here in Yazoo Police Department, Jackson PD, and different other places, Vicksburg. And a friend of mine told me about Chula, so I ended up going to Chula, talking to the chief, who was passed now. He died in a car accident. And he hired me, and I put myself through the police academy with my GI Bill, so it wouldn't be no expense to the city. Yeah, if I was waiting for them to send me, they didn't have the funds to send people to the police academy. So it was fortunate for me that I had the GI Bill. So I used the GI Bill, and I did that in 2000. I started there in 2013, which is the same year that I got out of the Marine Corps. And then I came out in 2014. That's when I graduated the police academy.
Gotcha. So fast forward to just a few weeks ago, you sent in your letter of resignation, and there's some important political context that needs to be filled in here, right? There was recently an election for a new mayor was it in Chula? And you mentioned that this might have something to do with your resignation. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, the new administration, they did campaign as far as, against my Facebook, strategies and stuff. Some of the town folk didn't like the fact that if they did something that was against the law or something like that, that I would, put them on blast. And some of them got the misunderstanding that if they called for a burglary, I was going to show up to their house with a camera and put that on there too. But if you look at my there's a trend. It's don't take a rocket science to figure out. Most of the people that I put on Facebook were people that I was looking for, and I'd given them plenty of chances to come in. So they were actually had committed a crime. I never put the victim on me. To answer your question, that it was just basically against my style of policing. But the thing about it is, they're not walking in my shoes. They wasn't. And now that they are, I think they understand it. It's a reason. It was a method behind, what I was doing. And it was a reason for it. But we were a short man. We only had at the time when I first started doing that, I only had 4 to 5 people working.
Interesting. I want to ask you a little bit more about that because, yeah, you've definitely incorporated social media as part of your law enforcement strategy. And you've described it previously as a non-lethal weapon. And so I want to ask you, why did you turn to social media as a tool for law enforcement?
Well, I started using the social media. It served several purposes. One, it helped the community, get involved in what I was doing. let them know that I was, doing work and stuff like that. But they also let the criminal, I gave them a chance to come in and safely turn themselves in. But, because my way of thinking is, if I can get you to walk through my door, then I'll feel a lot better. If I got to walk through your door, things could go bad or south, as they say. But, it helped me protect the officers that work with me, because we didn't want to have to worry about getting our heads blown off if we kick in your door. If I could get you to come into my, office, and we sit down and we can talk, and then I'll let you know, hey, you got a warrant. Some of them were, misdemeanor warrants, but the felony warrants, if I can get you to come in, then obviously I'm not going to have to come to the door with, my gun out and stuff like that, scaring the kids, the neighbors and stuff like that. So it just, I had a high percentage of people that, actually turned themselves in, and they, worked out a lot safer than, anything that I've ever done before.
And the posts, I mean, you definitely have this straight shooting certain style of the way you post on Facebook and the way you use that for law enforcement. Is that a reflection of who you are, or is that a certain strategy that you want to project to criminals, or why do you use Facebook in the way that you do? I'm
pretty much a straight shooter. I pretty much shoot from the hip. They didn't understand exactly where I was coming from, so they didn't. Some people didn't like it. Sometimes I use profane language and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I curse like a sailor sometimes. I've had a lot of my mentors and my friends tell me, "Hey, stop cursing." Well, and the thing about it is, the people that I'm talking to, and they know who I'm talking to through the messages, they understand exactly what I'm saying, because they don't speak, they speak a certain language, a different style of language. It's English, but just the same, it's somewhat different. So you have to get down on that level sometimes, because that's what they understand.
Right. You mean criminals?
They don't understand. Yeah, the criminals. They don't understand. Come in, please, or can we? Hey, you come in and let's sit down and have a talk. You got to put some gravy on that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in using anywhere between 30 and 40 weight gravy. So that's figuratively speaking. Mm-hmm. But that's the way I do business. It worked. And the thing about it is, there's no denying. A friend of mine, Billy D. Reed, he'll tell you, he has this thing. He said, you can't deny the numbers. If it works, it works, And the thing about it is, there's no laws being broken. I wasn't trampling on anybody's, rights or anything like that. It was just a different way of policing.
And did you ever receive any type of kind of formal criticism or official criticism from other authorities saying, don't do that? You didn't break the law, maybe, but was there some pressure from outside to cool it down, so to say?
Not necessarily other agencies. There was other knuckleheads that, I guess they were, my name started kind of ringing a little bit, so they would, get a little animosity and stuff like that. But, I really didn't give a damn. I tell them the same thing I tell everybody else that don't agree with me in the way I do stuff, and that's kiss my grits, stir the eggs if you feel the need. But I don't let people dictate how I walk through life. I think I'm on a mission, and they just happen to not know exactly what that mission is, and they don't understand it. So they, just stand back and watch.
Got it. I want to ask you about a couple different. I was looking through your posts, and I want to ask about a couple different scenarios and see if you've ever come across these in your Facebook use. And so one is, have you ever used it for investigative work, like gathering information or evidence that helped you solve a case or nail down a suspect?
Oh, yes. I have located people through Facebook. I usually get a lot. I get a lot of tips on Facebook, as you know, to the who, what, when, where, why, how, and all that stuff. So it comes in a lot. It comes in kind of handy, and it allows people to stay, you know, kind of like behind the scenes if they want to, because of course I'm not going to tell them. And I think everybody, you know, if people think that I'm somewhat of a Superman around here. It's not me. It's my, you know, the people that are my Facebook family, you know, helping me out. As far as, you know, letting me know where they are, what they're wearing, and stuff like that. I've even gotten a tip on something that was going to happen a week before it happened, you know. So, you know, and people, I think that's how, you know, people kind of look at me like, you know, this cowboy had, you know, wearing, you know, super guy, but that's not the case. It's not. It's just that, you know, I got some loyal, dedicated fans, and you know, they help me out a great deal. You know, and think about it, and it's the community, you know, that's getting involved. You know, it allows people that don't wear the badge to kind of like, it's like a neighborhood watch, and then they call Big Daddy and say, hey, he's breaking in over here, such and such and such, and Big Daddy goes over there and, you know, do the Hulk smash or whatever, you know.
So kind of like Crime Stoppers or Neighborhood Watch, as you said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
But it's a little more direct. Yeah.
Right. And so I've seen, you mentioned it before, that there's some posts where you'll call out a criminal by name or a suspect, and you'll ask them to turn themselves in a certain amount of time, like 48 hours. And has that actually worked?
Oh, yeah, it happens. It happens before. They kind of cheated me out of my foot chase, or, you know. And the thing about it is, I tell everybody, is policing is, you know, one of the best sports and best shows on earth, because we get to hunt if we want to all the time, you know. But yeah, they have turned themselves in, and then I've had people call in and kind of like make arrangements, you know. So, you know, to come down there with their bail's bondsman, or, you know, even a lawyer once before. So,
right,
it gives everybody a chance, and it puts everything out on the table. And usually, when I call people by name, or I put your face out there, or a video, I pretty much got you dead to right. That's why I'm doing it. So really, there's no purpose in running. You know, you basically just come in because I got you. You know. I just had to put the handcuffs on you yet.
And do you think that by posting those pictures and calling people out, do you think that helps to curb others from committing crimes because they might not want to be in that situation? Right,
especially if they're out on parole, or they're hiding from somebody. I've had that. That has been the case. I have one guy. He's you know, violated his parole, and he is now gone. You know, because of that. And then there's some peer pressure, you know, the family members, they don't want to have you know, their son or daughter embarrassed, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, it would behoove them to, you know, just abide by the law, you know, do what you're supposed to do and stay out of my way, you know, because one thing has been proven, that if you screw up, I'm going to get you. So I think they got the message. And now that I'm gone now, and pretty much things I heard are back to normal. And I thought it would take a lot longer, but just recently the Dollar General got broken into, about 2 nights ago? 2 or 3, yeah, like 2 nights ago. And that's like the third or fourth burglary since I resigned.
Interesting. And then the last kind of scenario I want to ask you is, do any of these suspects kind of taunt you back? Do they try to get you back on Facebook somehow?
No. Well, I have one guy call me out on Facebook, Travis Baker, who was one of my, you know, he was the problem child. And I guess he kind of respect me, but at the same time, I guess he thought he was going to be the one to, you know, call me out and get away with it, which, you know, that wasn't a good idea. And I took it kind of personal that he said that I wouldn't be able to catch him, you know, especially on foot, because that's the challenge of that's the challenges of challenges right there, because I pride myself on being somewhat speedy, somewhat fast. They gave me the nickname down there, Fofo.
Like running a 4.440, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I usually catch you within that length of time, or that distance. So but he's one of the guys that called me out, and I think he called me out on Saturday. I saw it on a Saturday night. I took Sunday off, and by Monday, 11 o'clock, I had him face down with the gun in the back of his head, waiting to put some handcuffs on him. So, and of course, I strutted him right back through the path that he ran from me, so everybody can see it, because that's just the way I do business.
Got it.
Little, humble him a little bit.
Right. So, you've mentioned that while you were police chief, crime rates were down. And I want to ask, how important do you think social media, and in particular Facebook, was? I mean, would you put it up there with your sidearm, for example? Was it that important to your mission, or was it something that you kind of used but wasn't really key to your job?
I actually, at first, it was somewhat, kind of, I guess, secondary. But after, I started getting I guess you could say I kind of mastered the art of trash talking on Facebook and calling people out. And it became almost just as important as, my mace or, anything that was on my gun belt. I think it was more powerful than anything that I could wear on my gun belt or anything like that, because, it allowed people to interact, with law enforcement, comment and do stuff like that. Whether sometimes it was good, although most of the time it was good, but I have a few bad people response. They responded kind of negative, as far as most of it had to do with race, because Chula is pretty much predominantly black town, and most of the people that I arrested were African American. But that's just a matter of statistics, I'm sure if I was in a town with 50% black and 50% white, that's pretty much would probably be the percentage of the post, and all the arrests, as well. So, you can't blame me, because of the makeup of the town.
Right. I think most of our listeners, anyone who's not from the Deep South, doesn't really understand the importance, I think, that race does play, especially in small towns.
Mm-hmm. Keep in mind for those that, might have some Mormons out there that don't really, watch TV or whatever, but I'm actually black as well. So that playing the race card just don't work with me.
Right. So let me switch gears here, and I want to talk a little bit more about your Facebook pages. So your personal account has 5,000 friends, which is the max. Your Chula Police Department account has 25,000 likes. Mm-hmm. The New Southern Justice has 10,000, which is enormous for a town of 2,000 people, right? And so you have supporters inside Mississippi, from the U.S., even outside of the U.S. Mm-hmm. And my first question is, what do they mean to you? The fact that there is this large amount of support online for what you're doing.
I love my Facebook family, man. I read, I think about it, a lot of people might not believe it, but I have read pretty much every response, even the little, the comments under the comments, so I tap on those and read those. I think it's kind of like, it's a relationship without, we don't know each other, of course, but, of course they know me, and, I've been seeing, I know the ones that, respond pretty much every time I post, like Eric Ferguson. He's actually, I actually met him. He gave me a walking tall stick from McNairy County, up there where Buford Pulsar passed. He was a sheriff up there. And he went up there and got a stick from his house. His house is now a museum, so he made the trip. And I was kind of like, kind of in awe when he did that, and that's kind of like when I started realizing that, that people were behind me and they supported my cause, and they understood the mission. And a lot of people wish, that I would come and work, in their town.
Right.
So,
I have seen that.
yeah. And the thing about it is, if I could, I would, That's a bit more like, I guess back in the days when, the guy would ride into town and clean up the town and, ride off into the sunset, on to the next place. That would be too much fun for me if I could do that.
Got it. So my next question has to do with, you have the Chula Police Department page, and then more recently you have the New Southern Justice page. What are the differences between those?
Well, I started out with the Chula Police Department page. Me and some aldermen, they didn't understand. And the thing about it is, just because they're, elected officials don't mean that they understand the laws that govern, the United States or, our community and stuff like that. So they were worried that they were going to get sued because of what I said and me calling people out and stuff like that. So they said that they didn't want the police department to have a page. And they told me they wanted me to stop posting. Well, and this is the beauty with the old board, not like the new board. We could agree and disagree on stuff and then, come up with a solution. So I basically told them I'm not going to stop posting, but I will stop posting on the Chula Police Department page. So that's when I came up with the New Southern Justice page. Mm-hmm. And, that's kind of like my blogger page. I've been posting on that. That's what I usually post on. I pretty much always post on anything dealing with law enforcement or anything dealing with certain, topics or whatever. I'll post on the New Southern Justice page, and I'll share it back and forth with my personal page.
Got it. So as a way to kind of compromise with the board.
Right. So anything that I say is not, on them. It's strictly on me.
Got it. So I've just got two more questions for you. One is, do you think that the ways that you've been using social media has inspired other law enforcement agencies or other police?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of other pages kind of like they're getting a little more, substance, with their posts. And I heard it's kind of somewhere in Florida, there's a sheriff over there that's kind of like doing a spin the wheel thing on his Facebook page or whatever, or website. And then shortly after I started doing, I think when I first started making national news, the surrounding areas like Jackson, I've seen some stuff that the sheriff over there in Jackson, Hinds County. Yeah, but he posted, and it was a little bit more robust, in his approach. And the thing about it is, I can appreciate it. And, I was rooting for him, too. So I'm good for him and good for them, the ones that are doing that, because, I think technology is changing. The criminals are using stuff, to communicate. They, and the thing about it is, and someone else said, one of my Facebook family members, I call them Facebook family members, they posted, that, it's funny how, the criminals can post on Facebook, F the police and stuff like that, but I can't, call them out on it, and when they do something. So it's, the battleground is pretty much on, even ground. Like I said, technology is changing and policing has to change also, with the time. So hopefully this is something that's, going to be, pretty much mainstream as far as, maybe not, with Facebook but some type of social media presence is going to be in the police department. I think they need to, I've seen other police departments, they just put like, little synapses of things, but it's not something that you really enjoy reading. I like to, kind of spice mine up a little bit, and to make it fun for the readers and everything. But everybody knows, even though it sounds, it makes you laugh, I'm pretty much dead serious. So but I think it's gonna catch on to a lot of other places.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting model. And I mean, I think what you said has a lot of weight, that, if your primary audience is these criminals that speak in their language is, you've done it in a definitely unorthodox way. But if crime is down and that works, then who's to say?
Right.
So my last question for you is what's next? So you've just sent in your letter of resignation, and what are the future plans?
Well, I got actually, once my resignation made the news, I started getting some phone calls from other places that they're kind of far away. I would have to relocate if I was to take the job. I'm waiting on a call right now to see if I get this other job. I put in for a chief of police position in a bigger town than Chula. About the same amount of people, but it's somewhat nearby. It's closer than these other offers. So I'm waiting to see what they say first, and then if not, then I could just kind of like hang back, but I'm pretty much addicted to. I'm addicted to the rigmarole of being a chief. So I guess right now I'm just in holding status and just standing by and enjoying my time off.
Right. Well, Chief, I'm going to keep calling you Chief, and we'll let you go and wait for that call. Best of luck, and thanks so much for taking the time out and sharing your insights with us.
I appreciate it. Long live the Chief, I guess you could say. And thank you.
I've just been speaking with Kenneth Hampton, former Chief of Police at Chula Police Department. Go on over and check out his Facebook page, New Southern Justice. And while you're there, check out ours, Social Media and Politics Podcast. And that's a wrap for this edition of the Social Media and Politics Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Signing off from Copenhagen, I'm your host, Michael Pacetta. See you next time.